There's a big difference in age between you and youth, yet you are so passionate and open to them. Why?
Well, there is not exactly a big difference between me and in the age and the youth. I find myself very youthful. Anyway, I'm just kidding. But, the youth are the future. Today, Africa has a huge youth bulge. If you look at Kenya, over 70% of Kenya's population is less than 30. It's a very, very youthful population. The median age of Kenya is 18. The median age of, say, Sweden is 47. So many parts of the world, the population is aging, but the youth is where the future is going to be. So therefore, we have to invest to ensure that we get a dividend out of this youth, which is also called a demographic dividend. And we have to invest in what I would term as the 4 E's. First is the right education and skills. The second is ensuring that everybody is empowered. Every girl child achieves her full human potential. Every girl child is guaranteed that she will be able to complete her education, be able to advance in her life and become a productive member of the workforce, and therefore she'll be able to plan her family. So by the time you get to an age where you decide to get married, you should be able to plan your family so that you also stay productive, because when a man and women are earning income at the household level, that's what changes the household income. There's more disposable income, you have better access to education, better access to opportunities, better access to nutrition, and that's what creates better human capital. So it's going to be very important. The third is employment. Now, Kenya needs 1 million jobs a year. That's the number of people that are joining the workforce every year in Kenya. So in order to create those jobs, you have to have the Big Four agenda actually provides that opportunity for massive job creation. But everybody needs to be gainfully employed. And that is why at the President of Kenya, the UN Secretary General, the UNICEF Executive Director, Henrietta Fore, are all championing what is called the Generation Unlimited. And the purpose of the Generation Unlimited is to make sure that every young person is either in school or in training or is properly employed. Now that will make all the difference. But the fourth E is very, very important, and that's about equity. Now, when societies feel that certain segments of society feel left behind or have been marginalized, or certain young people feel that they're not getting their due, you start to create instability. The equilibrium, so to speak, gets upset. And that instability becomes a cause for crime, for violent extremism, for all the challenges that we face as a society. So these 4 E's are going to be fundamental for achievement of the demographic dividend. Therefore, to me, personally, I see where the youth can take this continent to. The sky's the limit. That's exactly what the youth did in South Korea, in Singapore, in Japan, in China, in order to advance their countries. Precisely what the youth did in Western Europe after the Second World War. So the youth will be defining the future of what a stable, prosperous, happy, peaceful Africa is going to look like. And we will need young leaders like you to look into that future and see a role for yourselves there.
Do you think Africa's Agenda 2063 is achievable? What can children and youth do to participate?
Oh, it is fundamental to Africa's growth, and children and youth will define that. So which basically means I go back to the 4 E's that I spoke about, and let me repeat it quickly. Education and skills, empowerment, employment, and equity. So every woman, every child must be able to achieve their full human potential. I really believe that for Agenda 2063 to be achieved, we must look at gender parity in the political space too. So therefore, I strongly urge the leadership of Kenya to push for the 2/3 gender bill. I think it's going to be very, very important. We already see in Africa, in Ethiopia, in South Africa, Rwanda is ahead of the pack with the number of women in parliament. Now they have gender parity and they have gender balanced cabinets. That's precisely what we need. So we need to see many, many more women in the political space making decisions. And that is precisely what we need to see at the household level, where a boy and girl are treated equally. To achieve Agenda 2063, unless there is equality in society, unless there is gender equality, it's not going to happen. And did you know a fact that Sub-Saharan Africa loses $95 billion every year because of gender inequality? This is a report, it's called the Africa Human Development Report, launched by the United Nations Development Program here in Kenya in 2016. President Kenyatta launched that report, and it's quite revealing. So I think if men are smart, they will ensure that their daughters, their wives, their nieces, their aunts, their mothers are all given that opportunity of equality, and that is what will change everything. So for Agenda 2063, the underpinning of this will be the Sustainable Development Goal number 5, which is about gender equality. If we can ensure that, I think Africa's trajectory to achieve 2063 is absolutely within reach.
What is the UN doing to positively contribute to the global SDGs and the Big Four agenda?
Okay, so the Sustainable Development Goals, I don't know how much you know about the history of it, but Kenya, Ireland, and Hungary were actually the drivers of the Sustainable Development Goals initiative. In fact, here in government, you have a principal secretary in the name of Ambassador Macharia Kamau, who actually led from the Kenyan side in New York and brought the key stakeholders together in what is called an open working group. And it's really been the resilience of Kenya, Hungary, and Ireland in making sure that this got globally embraced. It was tough negotiations. It wasn't easy. 17 goals with so many, sub-level outcomes. Having said that, I think what the Secretary General has instructed every resident coordinator in the world to do is to make sure that we as the UN family are fully aligned with the government's priorities, which is to deliver on the SDGs. But as I said, the Big Four agenda is crucial, and therefore the UN has a plan of its own called the United Nations Development Assistance Framework, which was launched in June of 2018, which goes on till June of 2022. And the focus of that is how do we help the government to achieve the Big Four development agenda. For the UN, we are in lockstep with the government and the people of Kenya in order to achieve just that. I genuinely believe that the Big Four development agenda is totally achievable.
During the Regreening Kenya launch, you were involved with CS Fred Machangi and CS Kiyako Tobiko. Why do you think conservation and tree planting is important?
Well, you've seen the President of Kenya has spoken to that. He says he wants to increase forest cover in this country to 10%. And I can't agree more. Look at the new head of the United Nations Environmental Program, Mrs. Inger Anderson, who's recently joined to lead the United Nations Environmental Program here in Kenya, which is, as you know, is a global headquarter of the UN Environmental Program and of UN Habitat. And she's a passionate champion of afforestation and greening. So I think we've got all the elements of that right. You have UNEP here, you have a president who genuinely believes in making sure there's a green Kenya, you have a first lady that believes in it. I've seen, the cabinet secretary of defense, the cabinet secretary Fred Matiang'i of CS Interior, the cabinet secretary for environment are united in their purpose to ensure that we have a green Kenya. And that will happen when every citizen in this country, every 46 million Kenyans starts to look at trees as a medium to ensure that we safeguard the environment. The UN Secretary General not so long ago actually issued what is called a red alert on the climate. And the key issues of climate change we're already seeing. We're seeing it here in Kenya. Longer spells of droughts, repeated droughts which have been coming in, or we start to get floods. We've noticed that during the rainy period, we are not getting the amount of rain that is needed. That is all because of climate change. And that's also because of a really large degradation of forest lands. So reclaiming that land back with forests is going to be critical. And here is a country which should be a model, which should be a beacon of hope for that. It's the country of Wangari Maathai. It's a country where Wangari Maathai brought home a Nobel Prize for the work that she's done steadfastly, supported by this country in the afforestation plan. I really think that Kenya can be a model of doing just that.
What is your favorite animal? How would you feel if it became extinct?
My favorite animal is actually a cheetah, and sadly so, in India, it became extinct. In fact, in India, the cheetah was hunted out. So I'm very pleased to see that when I come here in Kenya, when I go to the game parks, you still have cheetahs here. But in India, it has become extinct. And that's very, very unfortunate. The ecosystem is meant to have everybody around. The balance of nature is meant to have everybody around. So in the animal kingdom, the ecological balance that is needed can very easily be jeopardized by the elimination of a particular species. And we are seeing increasingly that happen. And that is why the role of humanity is the preservation of our planet. And the preservation of our planet means every species, from that little ant or a termite to the largest mammal, all of them are absolutely needed. So, I'm really sad to see that the cheetah got extinct in India, but we have a prime minister there by the name of Narendra Modi, who's really working hard in looking at how do we make sure that we preserve the Indian tiger, for example, and do not allow that population to also become extinct. So there's work which is happening there, but we should never see animals becoming extinct.
When all is said and done, what would you like your legacy to be?
When all is said and done, if it's a legacy for Kenya, I would certainly want to see that the United Nations has contributed adequately to the vision of this country, to ensuring the advancement of the human capital of this country. But I certainly want to respond to what the UN Secretary General has said. He says, the world is in pieces and we need world peace. So I want my legacy to be one where I have contributed to that vision of the UN Secretary General.
Okay, so I'm going to read a page of my favorite book.
Go ahead.
The Lion from Dirty Beasts. The lion just adores to eat a lot of red and tender meat. And if you ask the lion what is much the tenderest of the lot, he will not say a roast of lamb or curried beef or deviled ham or crispy pork or corned beef, hash or sausages or mutton mash. Then could it be a pig plump hen? He answers, no. What is it then? Oh, lion dear, could I not make you happy with a lovely steak? Could I entice you from your lair with a rabbit pie or roasted hare? The lion smiled and shook his head. He came up very close and said, the meat I'm about to chew is neither steak or chops, it's you.
Fantastic. Bravo. That was a great one. Thank you for that. That's beautiful.
Roald Dahl Treasury is one of my favorite books and I really like it, because it has all the books that Roald Dahl wrote. It's like a whole thing.
Compilation of all.
And then it's also like a mix match of poems inside that he wrote.
Fantastic.
So yeah. Can I challenge you to write a book?
Your challenge is accepted and I will write a book.
Okay.
So tell me, Eliane, why are you so passionate about tree planting and why are you so passionate about the environment?
So when I was 4 years old in kindergarten, I did a project on heroes. So these heroes included Wangari Maathai, Henry Wanyuke, Uhuru Kenyatta, Barack Obama, and Nelson Mandela, and so all the heroes. So I fell in love with Wangari Maathai's tree planting, so I started planting trees initially at home. So I planted one tree and I was like, this view really feels good. I can ask my mom if I can plant in Karura. So I did it. I asked her, she said okay, then it happened, and then I asked her more if I could plant more trees, and then this became a whole big thing. And so now this is, for what I did in the past, that is what presented me to being on Jeff Koinange, Citizen, JKL Live, which was yesterday. And so really is a big difference to my life than it was in the past. So yeah.
Fantastic.
Just a project that really changed my life for, yeah.
Yeah. So, it was Malcolm Muggeridge, an English philosopher, who said that in the larger shapings of life, there is a plan already made into which we have no choice but to fit. So maybe at a young age of 20 or 25, I'll see you as the Minister of Environment in this country, planting millions and billions of trees. Best of luck and keep up your good work, Eliane.
Thank you.
What is your tree planting target?
So I'm really hoping to plant 1 trillion trees or even more, like go up to infinity. And if I want to stop, I can stop if I want to, like to do my favorite thing, art, like just express myself. If I'm sad or something, then I just do it in an art.
Great. So send me a letter and I'll share that with the UN family also and ask them to support you too. Yeah? Fantastic. Thank you. Good to meet you, Eliane.